As you see on the next slide, I have given students an opportunity to think about the ways in which what the events that we're seeing as divine, as coming from divine origin or something that the gods are doing in the world. And I want you to think what a natural explanation might have been for some of the things that we see, some of the things that were interpreted as miracles in the Bible. So take a look at those, see if you think you know what those might be. I'm going to go on to the next slide and give you some examples of the way in which miraculous events in the New Testament might be explained through modern science. For instance, the Bible talks about Jesus walking on water. Some of the explanations that have popped up to explain that story were things like, well, he wasn't really walking on the water, and in fact, it only looked like he was walking on the water because it was so hazy and cloudy and foggy. That's one way. Another explanation for Jesus walking on the water is it was dramatically colder back then, and the Sea of Galilee was frozen over, and Jesus was able to walk on the water by walking on the ice. These are some of the explanations that have been given. Another explanation or another example of what I'm talking about is the story of Jesus feeding the 500, and you'll see the 5,000, and you'll see that in like places like John 6. Some people have looked at that, which was certainly viewed as a miracle in John, and said, well, maybe it wasn't 5,000 people. Maybe that's a symbolic number, and there was actually much, much less. And that's how Jesus was able to feed a large crowd with a small lunch of bread and fish. Another explanation for the feeding of the 5,000 was that it was purely symbolic, or that it was theological in nature. In other words, the example that Jesus showed in feeding people who were hungry, who had come to see him. In fact, that can be explained in terms of perception, as in he did something moral, something great for people as an example, and his disciples later experienced that event as a miraculous event. But it really wasn't one. It was simply a moral example of God's desire to take care of the poor.